Hey guys, today I'm just going to do a quick video on cursors in SQL. Cursors are basically SQL's version of a for each loop, so they can run through like a table and grab, and do something for each value in that table, each entry. So to start off, I just made this temp table, and this is just to give us something for our cursor to run through. And just so you can see it, this is the table it created. You got the ID, numbered up, username, and just some data. Okay, so for the actual cursor, the first thing you're going to need to do is declare any variable you want to use in the cursor. So I declared just the same things as are in that table because that's what I'm going to need to use. So that's what I did here. The next step is we need to actually declare the cursor. So here you can name it anything you want. So I just named it rCursor. Declare rCursor, cursor4, and then you're just going to select which entries you want to use from which table. So I want all three columns, ID, username, and data from the temp table we created. And it doesn't have to be a temporary table. You can select this from any type of table. This is just easier for our purposes. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you open the cursor you created, and you fetch next from the cursor into these variables you created. And now what this is doing, fetch next from, is it's going to choose the first value from this cursor you created, which has all the data from our temp table, and then you're going to put it into these variables you created, so ID, username, and data. And these don't have to be the same as these, but you'd normally want to just for to make it easier. So right now we've got the first value, set up and input into these variables we created. So then the next step is you just have while fetch status equals 0, which means like if it was successful, we're going to continue. So it begins. This is the beginning of what we actually want it to do. And what I have here, just as an example, is we're updating that same temp table, and we're setting the data column, which is this column here. We're going to set this equal to what it is now, and then plus, and then the username. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but it's just an example of, just an example for you. So we're going to do this where the ID in the table equals to the ID of the variable. So pretty simple there. So it's going to do this, and then the next step we add another fetch next from, and again this is just going to select the next set from this data. So where the first fetch grabbed this, the next one will grab this, and so on. And we add the end, and it'll go through every time until fetch status is no longer 0, which means it no longer found an entry. It did all of the entries for the cursor, and then we just close it and deallocate it, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, so let's run this and I'll give you an example of what it does. Invalid object name. Oh, I guess I gotta add this in here. Alright, so let's run the whole thing. And as you can see, this is the original one we created. And this is the table after the cursor ran. So it ran through every one, took data, set it to that plus that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Cursors are pretty easy to work with, but it can be good to know how to use them, considering SQL doesn't have a good for each loop to use. So I hope this video was educational and you learned something from it. Thanks for watching.